In this interview, I talk with Jeanette, who's been a Sequence member for just a few weeks. I really enjoyed hearing her story. Part of it was she really wanted to change her life, and her doctor recommended exercise. And so she really took that advice to heart, and she started exercising, and that seemed to cause a cascade of positive health events. One thing that I want you to focus on in this interview is how Jeanette started slow and then she started to make her own goals until it got to a point where exercise really became a part of who she was. And at that point, exercise really started to feel automatic to her. In fact, it actually felt a little bit strange if she missed an exercise session. So go ahead and please enjoy my interview with Jeanette. Thank you so much for joining me on this. First, can you tell me how long you've been with Sequence?
Sure. So I've been with Sequence now for about 3 weeks.
Okay, very nice. And you joined our accountability group.
I did.
Did you do your homework with the group text message? Were you part of that?
I did.
Incredible.
Actually, I sent out my text and she responded right away. We had a really nice conversation, but I haven't received my text.
Oh no, I sent an email to make sure that everyone did that. I'm gonna find your partner and I'm gonna scold them. I'm gonna say I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I won't say that. Yeah.
Up to that. That's what they need. I don't know.
Yeah. But we'll make sure that you get your text message. But Jeanette, when I read your intake form of the questions, one thing that really stuck out to me, and I'm hoping you can tell me more about this, is your mindset shift around exercise, because it sounds like it went from a chore to something that you like. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So let me just backtrack kind of a lot. So, I've had body image and weight issues my entire life, but I've actually also kind of been active in a way. Like I like doing Zumba classes or, walking. I lived in Oakland, so I used to like walking around Lake Merritt and doing things like that, but never super active. I never played sports as a child. And so, I've never really been consistent with my exercise. And, just with age and COVID and everything, I really just stopped exercising and really gained a lot of weight and was very uncomfortable. And so probably about a year and a half ago, I reached out to my doctor and I said, I really need my practitioner, regular practitioner. And I said, I really need to do something different. Like I've gained so much weight and I'm really uncomfortable and it's starting to affect, my marriage and my life with my child. I really want to make sure that I change, what I'm doing today. And so she said to me, and this is honestly the best advice I've ever received from anyone. And she said, you know what, let's start with exercise. We're not going to do any medication. We're not going to throw pills at it. I really want you to change your mindset around exercise. So start doing something small, maybe picking up a couple weights, going on a walk with your dog. And, once that kind of settles in for you, you can increase your activity and then we can talk about the next steps. She's like, I don't want you to diet. She's like, because if we start throwing too much spaghetti at the wall, you're not going to do anything and you're going to be frustrated and we're going to be right back where we are today. So honestly, that was the best advice I ever received because it allowed me to focus just on working out and changing my mindset around exercise. And that was what I needed. So once I felt like secure about my exercise, then I said, okay, well, I'm going to start kind of implementing because I didn't lose any weight, but I felt my body was changing. So, I went from like a double XL to, an XL. So it was like baby steps, right? And so once I started feeling more secure in my workout, then I started to do Weight Watcher. And so I tried that, and then the medication came. So it's been like a progression. But honestly, I think that advice was the best thing that ever happened to me, because now I love exercise and I look forward to it like on a daily basis. And when I don't work out, I kind of miss it, and I'm like, okay, how can I get my activity today? So it's really been mindset for me.
Yeah, I have a few things I'd like to ask you about that. But the first one's a little bit more of a statement. I consider the gold standard for exercise in terms of motivation to be when it becomes a part of who we are. Like it's a part of my identity. You just said, I feel uncomfortable if I didn't do something today. Does it feel like exercise is a part of who you are?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
honestly, and it never has been.
Yeah.
So definitely, it feels like it's a part of me, and it's something that I crave on a daily basis.
That's great. And really, in my mind, the gold standard for motivation for exercise. I love that your physician recommended exercise, and I love that it stuck. I think that that's incredible. And one thing I've always hypothesized about is if we can start out with something where we start accumulating wins and we feel in control, it's like this cascading health benefits. I started exercising, I was consistent, I saw the benefits. What's next? Does that sound like that's what happened for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to tell you that, like, my whole entire life have always associated exercise with discomfort and pain, like my legs hurt or my arms hurt, or,
Yeah.
I'm sore for the next 3 days or whatever. And so that was like a deterrent for me, because I didn't like to sweat. I didn't like to feel pain. I didn't want to feel discomfort. And now it's like, I don't associate it with all of those negative terms. Now it's about like, ooh, I love the way my heart rate goes up and it makes me feel like motivated. And, one of the things, excuse me, that I love, and this isn't a plug for my gym, but I joined Orange Theory, and I'm like a big data person, and I just love to be able to track, like, what my heart rate is, like how many flat points I got. And I'm kind of talking, Orange Theory kind of language, but to me, and your iPhone could do it if you have an Apple Watch, you don't need to go there. But to me, that was another thing that I was like, oh, how many calories did I burn today? How many calories did I burn this week? And then to be able to compare it like over time, like from month to month, or even like I remember when it was going to be my 1 year anniversary at, this particular gym. And I knew that I had, like 260 workouts in a year, or almost a year. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make it my goal to, work out at least 50% of the year. So I had to add another 18 classes. And so I knew that for that last final month, I had to work out 18 times in order to meet that 50%. And so now my goal is to just surpass the calories and the slaps that I got from the first year. So just being able to have access to that data has really engaged me on kind of like a different level. And really, again, another motivator. So I'm not looking at it in a negative way, but looking at it in a positive way. And I have to tell you, through this, because I never worked out before and had terrible form when I first started, I injured both knees and I was in a lot of pain, but I still kept on going. I was like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep going. And so I had to rehab during that time, and even that didn't stop me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's really three things that someone needs to get to this point where you're at, where it's a part of who you are. So you're at Orange Theory. One is autonomy. I picked this because I want to do this, and I set a goal for myself. No one else set that goal for me. It was me. I set that goal. The next one is community. So when you're there, you're exercising with people, which is nice. And then the other one is competency. So I think a thing that people mess up on is they focus on, I'm going to exercise just to lose weight. And when that doesn't happen, they get discouraged, versus it sounds like you focused on performance. Like, what am I getting better at? Am I getting better at my technique? Am I able to, expending more calories is really a function of I'm more physically fit. And so you had all three of those things in place, and that probably felt like a lot of success, didn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm always curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, go. I was gonna say I'm always curious too. Is what was when you were younger? What was your relationship with exercise like?
Well, I'm Latina,
Yeah.
so grew up in a very, like Latino home. And honestly, I mean, I'm going to be 50, I'm kind of in the older age. And when I was growing up, girls didn't exercise. Like, we didn't join any team, do any physical activity. We were responsible for being at home, helping mom cook and clean and doing all that stuff. So I was never really exposed to that. Now, different for my daughter, who is in swim and she's in softball, and part of me is like, okay, I need to kind of not push her so
Yeah.
hard to both like my own issue, but I really don't want her to have the same kind of relationship with exercise that I've struggled with. I want her to have a more positive kind of experience, and so that has been really, really important to me.
Yeah, so maybe it wasn't even a thing that, and that's actually probably true for a lot of people, that especially for women, is that it wasn't even a thing that they thought. I think even only in the last 10 years has it been something where women should do strength training, when they should have been encouraged to do strength training a long, long time ago. I think like particularly for like bone health. Does is it
Right.
Yeah, is it fair to say, or tell me more about this? Maybe that's a better way to put that. Is you exercising in part you being a role model to your daughter?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and even, when I was at my heaviest, it was tiresome to walk and be active. And she's like very active. I mean, she wants to do dance parties at night, and she wants to jump on the trampoline. And especially during COVID, that was like our activity. And so if I can't do that with her, and she's, the only child, then who is she going to do it with, And so it was more than just the exercise. I didn't want her to grow up with a mom who's heavy and unable to be active with her, because that was very important to me. And so that has really been a driving factor.
Yeah. So not only exercise is in service to your health, which you care about, but that's in part, it's also in service to your family. So I want to be able to show up for my family, which is I think that people go through this natural history with exercise where it's like, hey, maybe I want to start exercising to lose weight, or in your case, it sounds like it was a positive experience with the doctor, but doctor told me I have to lose weight, so I have to exercise, versus I want to exercise because of X, Y, and Z. Does that sound like that's a path that to some extent you took?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think it was kind of like a 50-50 for me, right? I knew I had to, because I was already, just really struggling with my weight. The other thing was, I mean, I was being told to, not just from my doctor, but my husband, my sisters, my family were like, okay, you're at your heaviest, like, you need to kind of do something different. So, they weren't doing it in an unkind way. I mean, obviously coming from a place of love, but, I needed to make that change. And so for me, it just started with, okay, like, it wasn't like I got there and I was like, oh, I'm going to be this workout person, right? I mean, at first, like I said, it was painful. It was all those negative things, right? It's like I was doing it for someone else. Why am I in this situation? But just being consistent, going every day, or, going, first it was like going 3 times a week. And then I was like, I think I could do 4 days. And then it was like 5 days, and then I injured my knee, and then it was like, okay,
Yeah.
back to 3 days, And so now so backtracking to like December, because I was still in a lot of pain in my knees. I was 5 days a week, but it was like certain days, and out of those days, like, my mind would just shut off. Like, don't wake me up. I'm not moving today. This is all I'm doing. And so I would say probably a shift since about January to now, where I'm being more flexible about what days I work out. So before I was like, nope, don't even attempt to make me work out on like Tuesdays and Thursdays because those are my day off. But now, yeah, I can do a Tuesday, I can do a Thursday, and then a couple weeks ago, for the first time, I actually did 6 days straight, and I've never done that before, and I didn't feel horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So even now, and part of my goal was to really increase my my calorie burn during my workout. But then I thought about it, I'm like, do I really want to increase? Not really. What I want to do is be more flexible about when I work out, because I think we also, that's part of the mindset, right? Jesus gaze, and I'm not going to, veer from that. But I think now it's like, okay, this is part of who I am, so I'm more flexible with it. It doesn't have to be so regimented.
Yeah, a way that I would put it is, when you first learn how to drive a car, it's like, all right, pay attention. Don't veer off course. I'm taking in everything, and I'm really focused. And that's like what starting a new habit is, versus don't do this, but now you probably can drive and be like, text your friend, or you probably could, don't do that. But I'm just saying that it becomes, I think people get to a point in the beginning where it's like, I really need to focus. I should be rigid with what I'm doing. Then they get to a point where this feels automatic and I've earned some flexibility. Does that sound right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even from like, okay, I can only use a 10-pound dumbbell for this, right? But now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I can experiment with a little bit heavier, so I might, go, instead of sticking to the 20, I might go to the 25, or even maybe go to the 30. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Feels cool to be stronger, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yeah, that would be what I would tell everybody. Doesn't it feel cool to lift more than what you did a couple months ago? Yeah. If you could give yourself and other people in your shoes advice, because it sounds like I'm not using the word roller coaster. It wasn't a roller coaster, but obviously once you get started with exercise, it's hard to stay consistent at first. What would you say to somebody, or even to yourself, that, hey, I'm trying to be consistent. Maybe I missed a couple days. How do I make sure I get back on track?
Yeah, I've gone through that, especially like I had COVID, or even went through a flu, and it's just like, after being in bed for so many days and like isolated, but honestly, I have not struggled with that at all. What I found, and this might be the advice that I give, is that as scary as it is to go back in, actually, when you get there, it makes you feel so much better. So don't cheat yourself of that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree. I think sometimes we tell ourselves a story that this is scary, I don't feel like doing it. And in my experience in talking to people, there's never been a single person that's regretted exercising. No one's ever been like, oh man, I really wish I didn't do that. Everyone's like, I'm so glad I did that. They might regret it the next day, but usually right after that, they don't necessarily regret it. Yeah. So Jeanette, what I would also ask you too is I know that was kind of specific advice, but for all of our sequence members, I guess one, you're new to the program. Has anything been helpful for you that you would recommend to our members? And then we can end with some, like, what other general advice do you have for people?
Yeah, well, I'm still kind of new to the program, so I'm still kind of learning it, and getting to know kind of how it works and stuff like that. But I love just being able to text, using the app and getting responses from you and others right away. So that's been really, it's been great, actually. We don't normally get that quick of access to our providers, and I do work in healthcare, so I'm very familiar with that. And in terms of advice to other members, I think that not everything is going to work for everyone. So this is specific to me. But if you've struggled with exercise, I know I belonged to gym for years on end where I was just paying and never went, because I didn't know what I was doing, and that's what I like about Orange Theory. It's like you don't have to think about it. You show up and they tell you what to do. But even if that's not an option, because I know it can be pretty costly, I would say just find a partner, find someone who knows what they're doing, and just give it a try. You can even find, I find that like on Facebook and, Instagram and all the various social media, that they actually have routines that you can do at home. And that's been so important, because even for me, while I've been injured, there were things that I couldn't do, that were part of the classes, but because I was kind of informing myself of different exercises that were more like little impact and things like that, I was able to modify my own workout, and even during class, do it like that. So, just find something you love, find something that's going to keep you coming back. And it doesn't have to include a drive somewhere and, a 1 hour class. It could be just 20 minutes at home with a couple weights and doing some strength training and going for a walk in your neighborhood. So I know I work for a cardiologist, and he always just says, it's not about joining the fancy gym. It's about just moving. And that's really what's going to kick off your whole physical routine.
That's awesome. Try different things, find out what sticks, and realize it doesn't need to be like an hour and a half each time that you train. It's okay to get started. And I will also plug too that we have so for Sequence members listening, we do have exercise programs. I know you're new, but hopefully you've gotten a chance to take it out. Just like what Jeanette said, is that you can just click the My Plan and then go to whatever you have, body weight, dumbbells. And actually, I did just open up a new class, which is the fundamentals of strength training, where actually I teach you how to modify exercises as well if you have an injury. So that might be something that you might even want to pop in on. So it's like, what goes into a plan? How do you modify it if you need to modify it? And then how do you make sure that you're progressing over time as well? So shameless plug for Sequence as well. But yeah, I thank you. This was great. I love hearing about how your motive has progressed over time. I love hearing that when you spoke with your physician, you really took that advice to heart. You took some really positive steps that led to not only exercising consistently, but also making positive holistic lifestyle changes. And that sounds like it's a common thread from the people that I've spoken to as well. So yeah, anything else that you want to add, Jeanette?
No, thank you for the opportunity, though. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Are you joining our accountability group later?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Good. I sure hope so. It's the same link. You can go in and register right now. I think it's coming right up in an hour-ish. Yeah. I know I see people in like a couple meetings with me per day, and I'm like, you're not sick of me yet? I'm pretty convinced they just keep joining to see my dog. That's about it. Yeah. So yeah.
He's so cute.
He is cute. He's perfect. Well, all right. I'll stop the recording. We can hang out for